we're going to do our first actual trick, and that is turning or spinning. I use the terms interchangeably, but my definition is anything where the bachi is spinning on an open hand, either direction, the fingers and wrist are not involved. So these are all turns and spins. How do you do a turn? How do you do a spin? So imagine your regular bachi grip, okay? Nothing fancy. Pull it so that you're about 50-50, so that when you open your hand, nothing's going to happen, right? Now, I want you to open the hand, but I want you to really flex the fingers and the thumb and the back of the hand, okay? It's a stretch, not just opening the fingers. It's a stretch. This is a position you don't want to hold for very long. You're going to feel the strain, but that's the feeling that you want to be familiar with. Okay? If you need to, you can shake your hand out every now and then, but just getting that feeling. And notice how the bachi isn't really doing a lot because it's balanced. Where it's balanced is important. Right now, the focus is going to be on the pad of the hand just below the index finger. This little pad needs to be elevated higher than everything else around it, because if not, obviously it's going to hit the fingers or the thumb. So this stretch is not just moving the fingers out of the way, it's also pushing that pad up. And in theory, this is where the bachi does the spinning. In reality, a sucker's going to roll all over the place, and that's what makes the spinning and the turning harder the longer you do it. But getting the idea of a spin, getting idea of the flex, sorry, and the opening, that's really important, okay? Now with this, you have the freedom of movement, but you don't have any movement generated. So you're going to take the other side of the hand, the opposite corner from the pad, you're going to take this part of the palm and you're going to push. You're going to push. So it's a chopping motion this way. My fingers are moving, but I'm not trying to move them. I'm focusing here. Push, push, push. Okay? You push the bachi, so the bottom end is going to go away from you, and you open your hand at the same time, and in theory, this was what happens before you close your hand. So if I start with blue on top, I'll have blue on the bottom. Let's try. Okay? Now the cool thing about this trick is you can do it slow. Not all tricks you can do slow. A lot of tricks you need a lot more momentum with. And this one, not so much. In fact, sometimes it's good to practice how slow you can do it. It makes it tricky, but it also shows you how little strength and force you need. Gentle. But you can practice with a little bit more oomph. Okay. And one thing you might notice I'm doing, which I talked about in the last video, is compensating when my bachi is not in an optimal position. Sometimes I wind up with the bachi down here, which is way too low to do a nice even spin. It's going to veer off and fall. So what do? Well, I crawl or I shift. But you don't want to start in a position that's not going to be advantageous. There's no reason to handicap yourself. Start with an even, balanced position. And if you find you're in a weird position, stop, do what you need to do, and reset. Okay? I'm going to call this turn, where you get 180 degrees, a half turn. The only difference between this and a full turn is closing the fingers later and maybe a little bit of extra push. So blue's on top, blue ends up on top. Now, a little bit trickier, but really easy to do with practice. And it's rotating on the palm of the hand, right there in that little pad. I'm calling this turn the outer turn because it's going to the outside, it's going towards the shoulder. The inner turn is a lot less common, but it's good just to know and practice a little bit. I wouldn't spend too much time on it unless you find it's really useful or you're really good at it. Same idea, much more similar to the strike that we're already used to, and much, much trickier. But it can be done. The more you do it, the easier it will get. The complication is that when I'm spinning, let's do this, when I spin outwards, when I spin away from me, I've got all of this time before it hits my finger, which might provide resistance. But when I spin inwards, it's already touching the finger that has to move out of the way. So it's a lot more complicated from the get-go. Still, worth practicing. Okay? Going back to the outer turn. If you can get two half spins, one full turn, consistent, then you can move on to 1.5 or 2 or 7 or whatever you'd like. But if you're focusing on multiple spins and you're not able to get a full turn down, it's just going to get more and more complicated. It's fun to do 2 or even just 1.5. You know, sometimes you can get up to maybe even a 4, but you've got to get the 2 half turns or a full turn in first. Other hand, always, always, always other hand. So let's do a quick review. Okay, remember, you want a balanced grip, you want that flex, you want to get used to where the bachi is and where it wants to go. Flex, flex. Once you get comfortable with this, then you can add the chop motion. Open and chop, open and chop, open and chop. And just repeat until this is comfortable, adjusting as you need. And you may not even know where to adjust to, but you will learn in time. Your hands will let you know, your fingers will let you know where it wants the bachi to go. And then when you feel comfortable, a full turn. Okay? So, keep practicing that. Don't feel like you need to do this before you go on to the next thing. If you feel like you want a lot more practice here, keep practicing. This trick is not necessarily related to any of the other tricks, but this is a very simple trick. It's very easy. It looks good. It feels very satisfying to flip and then go back to playing something. You know, dong, 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 flip, dong, 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 flip. Okay?